Okay, good morning everyone. Today is the 20th of April of the year 2026. Don't know if there's relevance in dropping that date, but experiment type shit. Okay, so today we're going to talk about analysis on gold. Gold is the currency pair that I trade primarily. It is what I trade. It is what I trade. It is what I trade. So today we're going to talk about analysis on gold. And as usual, if you watch any of our videos, I start my analysis by identifying our zones. So we're starting on the daily time frame because on the weekly time frame there is information to be gathered, but it's okay. Let's start on the weekly time frame. One of the reasons why I don't like starting analysis on gold on the weekly time frame, at least especially if I'm recording a video like this, is because we actually have a weekly zone, and you're going to be like, this doesn't really fall in line with the rules of the zone. I mean, technically it does. Look at this. You can see price hits once and twice. That makes it a zone, right? That makes it a zone, obviously. But at the same time, it's very, very small and difficult to spot. Most especially when you have regions like this and a region like this. They don't really look like zones. In fact, calling them zones is a bit of a stretch, but I will still identify them as zones. Why? Because one thing is, because for price to get to a certain point and then simply retrace, for example, let me put it like this now. Price was on an uptrend and has been going up, and then suddenly it came here and then came back down. Certainly there must be something about that area that makes price unable to go forward any higher immediately. Similarly, price came down that low and then immediately came up. You can even see a retest of this level at here. So that means that it's not actually an invalid zone. It's a resistance between support zone. So yeah. So what I'm just trying to say is that on paper, or would I say based on the rules of identifying zones, it doesn't really count as a zone. I mean, the top one does, but this bottom one doesn't. But I still identify them as a zone because for price to be moving and then suddenly stop, something must have stopped it. For price to then retrace, go down, and then suddenly stop, something must have also stopped it as well. So I just identify these points as my zones for the sake of leaving no stone unturned. This one should be my weekly zone as well as my all-time high. Okay, so now let's go down to the daily time frame and then let's identify our zones properly. Okay, wow, you can see this weekly zone fits very, very well. It's only this one at the bottom that doesn't have any, what you call it. Okay, so now, what are zones? Zones are support and resistance levels on higher time frames. We're now starting the, so to say, class or the whatever you might want to call it. So what are zones? Zones are support and resistance levels on higher time frames. So whenever I have a support level, a resistance level, a resistance turn support or a support and resistance, those are what we call zones. So if zones are support and resistance level on higher time frames being the daily, weekly, and the monthly time frame. Okay, just a slight side note. You can see that this is support became resistance, which is what makes this zone valid, a valid daily zone, right? Okay, so sorry about that digression. Where was I? Okay, yes. So if zones are support and resistance levels on higher time frames, then what are support and resistance levels? Support and resistance levels are regions in price that price finds difficult to either go above in the case of resistance levels or go below in the case of support levels. For example, now we have a range here, but let's just call it a zone. I mean, a range is a kind of zone anyway. This is a daily zone. Let's reduce the size of, because I like there to be differences between the daily zones and the weekly zones, so I can tell them apart at a glance. So you can see that the weekly zones are the thick red lines, the daily zones are the thin red lines. Then once it gets down to the 4 hours time frame, I'll start using a different color. Anyways, so you can see that price came, let's ignore that. Let's start from here. You can see that after coming up from here, price came 1, 2, 1, 2. This one's a slight retracement before breaking through. So At this point now, this weekly zone here is our resistance level. That's within this range of price action like this. This weekly zone is our resistance level, and this daily zone is our support level, because this weekly zone is the point at which price is unable to go above, making this a resistance level. Price tries once, twice, 3, 4, 5 times. 4 times before finally breaking through. I only marked out 2. While for the support level, price touched it once and twice. I was able to go below it before price finally broke above. So those are support and resistance levels. That is how you identify your support and resistance levels. So we're still on the daily time frame. So let's see if there's any other zones that we can draw on the daily time frame before we call it a wrap for this video and move on to drawing trend lines. Okay, I believe there's a zone here. This one is a resistance to support kind of zone. Like a daily zone here. And let's see. Let's have one more support and resistance zone here. Resistance to support zone. Where's the daily zone? And I believe that's it. So that's it for identifying zones on the daily time frame. Next, we're going to identify our trend lines on the weekly and daily time frame.